Hey guys, it's Greg and Janet with Strange RV Tours, and today we're in Bullard, Texas, which is in East Texas, and we're here to see the American Freedom Museum. This museum is dedicated to the United States fight for freedom and the freedom that we still enjoy today. All right guys, we're inside the museum, and this is the Hall of American Freedom. So, it says the tour begins here. America's War for Independence, 1775 to 1783.
Starting at the beginning.
Yeah. All the documents that we show you in here are real. Look at those old dice. The Stamp Act of 1765. This act taxed all paper products, legal documents, business records, newspapers, even playing cards, and specified the taxes to be paid in hard money. This act threatened every American and would drain all coinage from colonies. Also disturbing was that it was the first direct tax on the colonies, merely to raise revenue and not to regulate trade. Before a pair of dice could be purchased, it had to have the red royal stamp required by the act. Yeah, you can see a little red stamp there on it. That is one old pair of dice. So that was when England was taxing us before we had our independence.
For everything.
Now, what is this?
It's a cartridge box.
Really?
That, they'll put their cartridges in there and carry them around with their gun.
Yeah, there's some information on it. I guess I should have looked at that first. We got a lithograph or picture of the Boston Tea Party.
Like this?
I believe so.
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah.
And here's some information on Patrick Henry, the leader of the colonial resistance. And here is a document signed by Patrick Henry. Got another cartridge box here.
Lieutenant Luke Day. Huh.
This museum's already really cool.
Yeah.
And look at this old gun. This is a British Brown Bess flintlock musket.
Look how big. So long.
This is one of the guns that was present at the Boston Massacre. Wow.
This is a biggie.
Yes. The Declaration of Independence.
We still have a copy.
We do. Drawing up the Declaration of Independence. And the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Here's our allies and enemies, Continental troops, French troops, British troops, and the German Hessian soldiers. This is a 1780 copper plate engraved map showing North America as it appeared during the American Revolution. Here's an American cavalry officer's sword. pay and subsistence abstract for the commissioned, non-commissioned officers and soldiers of the Regent of Guards, now in the service of the United States Command, by Colonel Jacob Garish for the month of September 1778. I'm not going to read all these, guys. You can pause them to read them.
This is amazing. You realize the 13 states go all the way down to Georgia. And I always thought they were all just like right here. I didn't even think about how it was laid out.
We controlled all the seaboard on the East Coast, looks like. Committee of Safety musket belonging to John Cheever of Dedham, Massachusetts, and used at the Battle of Lexington on April 19th, 1775. That gun is pristine. That gun is, wow, beautiful. Musket. Crossing of the Delaware.
The famous crossing the Delaware.
Yep. Valley Forge, winter of 1777 to 1778. Look at that gun, that cannon. On Christmas evening, 1776, Washington's ragged American army left its encampment across the Delaware River in a driving sleet and snowstorm. At dawn on December 26, 1776, the near-frozen Continentals surged into Trenton, catching the Hessians, German mercenaries fighting for Britain, by surprise. They were weary from the previous day's holiday celebrations, their powder damp, deprived of artillery support, and their commander mortally wounded. The surviving Hessians surrendered. They suffered 1,120 casualties, while the colonists suffered only 4 wounded. 2 froze to death. The original cannon carriage with a reproduction barrel is a small cannon known as a grasshopper. It was designed by the British in the 1700s as a light gun to be carried with infantry. Here's an original receipt dated February 12, 1776 for $864 to pay Colonel Burrell's battalion to raise a company of matroses, artillery privates that performed semi-skilled tasks in the firing of a cannon. This is a Continental Soldier's pay voucher and discharge of Private Nathan Parker of the 1st Connecticut Regiment. Here's an American infantry officer's sword.
So this is the stuff they'd have to carry with them in order to load their muskets or their
powder horn, flints, musket balls, haversack, knife, horn cup, and a knife and fork.
Oh yeah, for eating.
This is a Revolutionary powder gourd to hold gunpowder. The forming of our new nation, United States of America. Here's an American militia coatee from the War of 1812.
Wow, that little guy.
Yeah.
That's almost too small for me.
People were littler back then.
And they were young, weren't they?
Yeah, they didn't have snack food yet. And fast food joints.
True.
This is the War of 1812, if you haven't figured that out yet, guys. This is a original report of the House of Representatives on the War of 1812. Attack on Washington. It's when they burned the White House. musket belonging to a member of the Maryland militia and used during defense of Fort McHenry. Wow. President James Madison. Here's some information on the attack at Fort McHenry. Chapeau de Bras, artillery officer's bicorn hat and hat box belonging to Captain John Harrison of the Washington Artillery of New Bedford, Massachusetts. Here's an American sword manufactured by N.P. Starr. And this is an American canteen made out of wood and iron. This is a cannon used by Andrew Jackson during the Battle of New Orleans in 1815. This was a overwhelming win for the United States. They were backed by Jean Lafitte. Also, Jean Lafitte, who was a pirate at the time, had gotten together with Andrew Jackson and agreed to supply weapons for the militia, because there's a lot of people that weren't actually in the military that fought in that. There's a lot of local citizens from the New Orleans area, and he supplied them with weapons, and it was a devastating loss for the British. And in fact, I believe the war was already over officially. They just didn't know it yet when that battle took place. Yeah, there's 2,000 British troops killed and wounded. The Americans only suffered 71 casualties. Yeah, the only problem with this stunning victory for the United States, the war had officially ended 2 weeks earlier with the signing of the Treaty of Ghent.
There's so much here.
An American newspaper announcing the Treaty of Ghent. That writing's so small, I wouldn't even know where it was on there.
This is amazing, you guys.
Yeah. 1846 to 1848, the Mexican War.
A lot to do with Texas.
Yeah, we sure fought in a lot of wars. Mexican decree calling for war with the United States. This is the decree.
It's in Spanish.
Yeah. This is a letter dated March 29, 1846 to Major John Monroe, the 4th U.S. Artillery Commander at Point Isabel, Texas. This is a military commission signed by Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna. Amazing. There's his signature. American militia uniform tailcoat, worn by Major Staley of the 8th U.S. Artillery. Man, those things would be heavy.
Wow.
Let's see the tailcoat. Like a piano player.
The stitching. Amazing.
Official report to the Senate and accompanying map from the United States Secretary of War regarding the recent war with Mexico. Okay, the war between the states, Civil War. Was the war between the states fought over slavery? Not initially. Consider the following. It's got more information there if you'd like to read it. Many factors made the conflict inevitable, including economics, the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854, slavery, Uncle Tom's Cabin, the Dred Scott decision, the raid at Harper's Ferry, election of a purely sectional president. Okay. And this is Uncle Tom's Cabin, first edition.
Wow.
3 things held our country together until 1860: the Constitution, political parties, and churches. Ulysses S. Grant.
From 1861.
Wow. 34 star pattern. The presidents. Abraham Lincoln was President of the United States of America, and Jefferson Davis was President of the Confederate States of America.
The Confederate States of America flag. It's the first national pattern. It's from 1861.
And we've got some information here on Robert E. Lee, one of Janet's distant relatives.
Yes.
She was actually named after him. General Order Number 3, appointing Robert E. Lee as General-in-Chief of the Armies of the Confederate States.
Okay.
United States and Confederate States comparison. Yeah, it looks like the northern district had a lot more production of goods that were needed. Fort Sumter, the first shot of the war. Bull Run, July 1st, 1861, the Union's first attack on the South. And this is what the battle looked like. Gun belonging to Confederate Private Isaac W. Owers, Company D, 14th Virginia Regiment, and used by him at the Battle of Bull Run. Confederate Cavalry Guidon, captured at Shiloh by a member of Battery G of the 1st Ohio Light Artillery. This would be a camp scene when they were moving across the lands, when they would set up camp. Yeah, you know how I know that? It's right there. They would bring dominoes with them. Got dominoes in there.
Of course, it's an officer's setup. That's obvious.
So they were playing dominoes instead of concentrating on the war, huh? This is an infantry uniform worn by Captain Francis S. Long of Company D, the 21st Connecticut Infantry. This is an artillery uniform and saddle. And a sword. And this is a cavalry uniform with boots and weapon. And an order issued by President Abraham Lincoln declaring martial law and unconstitutionally suspending the writ of habeas corpus. The sword of Colonel Henry I. Zinn. That is a decorative sword. You guys probably can't see this, but there's lots of engravings on that scabbard sword. Third National Confederate flag. I didn't realize they had any other flag other than this one. This flagpole was carried by the 61st Pennsylvania Regiment during the Battle of Gettysburg. Wow.
Oh my God. That looks like a real photo.
It is.
Oh my gosh.
And this is about Gettysburg. This was the battle that had the most casualties during the Civil War. The 1863 Tower Enfield rifle. There's an officer's sword belonging to Sergeant C.H. Rogers. Field glasses. Culp's Hill relics. Federal buckle and belt. Cartridge box and cap box. This drum was at Gettysburg, regimental drum belonging to the 101st or 102nd New York Infantry who fought at Gettysburg on Culp's Hill. You couldn't even put a price on these things. You just have to say each item's priceless. The history.
Wow.
1st Kansas Colored Infantry.
Wow. Brave men.
Yes. Handwritten note by Robert E. Lee reporting his address to the U.S. Army while on leave during February of 1858. Lee had gone to his family estate outside Washington, D.C. to handle the affairs of his deceased father-in-law. General Albert Sidney Johnston's sword, button, and eyeglasses. There's his button. Virginia Military Institute 1851 Springfield Cadet Musket. That baby is bent. The top one's not, but that thing is bent, that bottom one. Binoculars of Major General John C. Breckinridge. There is Mr. Breckinridge. Bullets made at the Confederate States Ordnance Works in downtown Tyler. Tyler's only about 5 miles away from here. Now we did a video earlier on Camp Ford, and this is a haversack carried by Lieutenant Louis Stevenson of the 176th New York Infantry. He was a prisoner at Camp Ford. This is a sword carried by a Union officer during the Red River Campaign. Confederate cavalry pistol, and canteen, hat, and saber. Here's an Enfield carbine carried by the Confederates. A Confederate cavalry cape and boots and spurs. A Union regimental infantry drum with hand-painted eagle and patriotic shield, fife and bugle. The 6th New York Cavalry flag. Texas swallow-tailed Gideon. The 1st National Confederate flag. A Union signal flag. Flag carried on Sherman's March of the Sea. These flags are huge, guys.
Yeah, compare me to the size.
Battle of Palmetto Ranch, a 36-star United States flag. 1865. The Spanish-American War, 1898. Uniforms are starting to look a little more modern.
These are like the ones in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
All the westerns and stuff, right?
Yep. The war in the Philippines. That's a Spanish flag captured in the Philippines. A 45-star U.S. flag raised in Manila Harbor over a captured Spanish fort by Colonel C.C. Hammond of the Nebraska Volunteers. An American naval officer's full dress accessories.
Isn't that cool?
He's fancy looking, man.
And there's the case that you would put it in.
You have to carry that out across the country with you, huh?
And on the boat.
The Rough Riders. Colonel Theodore Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt. And there he is again, right there in the middle. Down comes Spain's flag, and up goes Old Glory.
Now look at this uniform. It's a volunteer infantry.
Wow.
And that's like denim.
Yeah. World War I.
Here we go.
Life in the trenches.
There's those big heavy wool jackets.
Yep.
They're so itchy.
American ship sunk by submarine. It's 1917. And there's the ship that was sunk, the Lusitania. General John J. Pershing's Colt Pocket Positive revolver and swagger stick.
What's a swagger stick?
So that, because they get up mad, they smack you on the hands. There's Uncle Sam. Letter dated October 13th, 1921, and written by Alvin York. Sun and service banners. An Imperial German flag from 1871 to 1918, and a 46-star U.S. flag from 1908 to 1912. It's an Imperial Japanese flag. We're now entering World War II. The first ones to go, American pilots in the Battle of Britain. Pearl Harbor. Wish I could get better angles for this guy so you guys could read this better, but... And all kinds of promotional and posters. Propaganda posters, I guess. Buy war bonds. I need your skill in a war job. Here's a Japanese infantry uniform. General Douglas MacArthur. These are actual newspapers from Pearl Harbor. Here's your war ration booklets with stamps. Reviving a practice starting during World War I, millions of U.S. families, 1 in 5, displayed blue star flags in their front windows of their homes. Each star proclaimed a son or daughter in military service. Many families displayed more than one flag or a flag with multiple stars. Each star symbolized a family's love, pride, and worry and hope. If a loved one was killed, a gold star covered or took the place of a blue one, making it known an individual's sacrifice and a family's loss. Everyone knew the meaning of the gold star mothers. Service flags also reminded passerbys of the enormity and human cost of war.
3 stars?
Yep.
And that means you had 3 members of the
that were
family.
serving. And this is a collection of military and patriotic themed compact mirrors amongst a bunch of female uniforms. Surrender at Bataan.
Look at the
Yeah.
victims of prisoners of war stuff. Oh my God.
Uniform, Bible, and duffel bag of Luther Mendenhall, Seaman First Class aboard the USS Lexington. An artillery shell there too. U.S. flag flown on the LST-395. Wow, not much left of it. 1943. Iwo Jima. Black sand from the beaches at Iwo Jima. Uniform of James F. Humphreys, Seaman, First Class, U.S. Navy. Japanese officer's uniform with trunk and personal flag. The rifle displayed is a Japanese last-ditch Arisaka rifle taken as a war trophy by Seaman First Class James F. Humphreys. That's his uniform right there. Sergeant Marion Wayne Dement, pictured in his Jeep on the island of Okinawa, 1945. And that does look like it was the original Jeep.